Okay, so now we're going to talk about physics. All right, so this is going to be a fairly long section because we're going to do a bunch of things here. All right, so we've actually already been using physics because Ethan has physics installed on him already, and we're going to go ahead and take this a bit further. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some really simple physics. All right, we're just going to add gravity. All right, so I'm going to create a new object. So I'm going to create 3D object and choose sphere. All right, so I've got a sphere here and I'm going to move it to where it's kind of convenient to use. All right, so I've got the sphere there. And if I hit play right now, you'll notice that that ball is just sitting there in midair, right? There's nothing that we can do with it. So we need to go further with this. So I'm going to jump back here. And to give you an idea of what we're going to do, I'm going to apply another texture to give you an idea of what we're going to handle or what we're going to do with this. And it looks like Windows is giving me trouble. There we go. Give you an idea of what we're going to do. We're going to bring in texture. And I'm going to do something else here real quick. I'm going to add those two. All right. I'm going to make a quick change here. Okay. All right, hit apply on that. Okay. So I'm going to create a texture for this. I'm going to drag the basketball onto there. All right. And then we're going to go modify the material here. All right, so this isn't necessary. I just wanted to kind of set this up to show you here real quick. And there we go. All right, so it kind of gives it a little visual texture there. I know it looks kind of bumpy, but yeah, that's unadjusted. So let's make this basketball do what it should, right? Because it kind of looks like a rabbit bat. Actually, that looks pretty good close, right? So let's add some functionality to that. Let's make it bounce. And here's how you do that. So we're going to make sure the sphere is selected. You know what? Let's rename this. B-ball. All right. And we're going to go down here. We're going to hit add component. And we're going to go down here and choose physics. Right? And we're going to choose rigid body. All right, so we've got rigid body, and now if we hit play on this, we have rigid body physics. So you notice it just fell, but it also, if we bump into it, it'll actually roll as well. We'll just lose it if it goes over the edge, right? So it would be nice for it to bounce, wouldn't it? All right. So first of all, before we get into that, we're using what is called rigid body physics. So rigid body physics just manages the super basics, like gravity and running into things, that sort of stuff. It doesn't handle things like deformation, things like that. What you're looking for, if you want to do that, is soft body physics. And if you want to see a great example of that, go play a game called BeamNG. That's beam with the letter N, G. And that game uses soft body physics on its vehicles to deform them, and it's really cool. So, yeah, go take a look at that if you want. But we're going to just deal with rigid body physics on this. All right, so we've got that. We got the movement there, but it would be nice if it would kind of bounce like a real basketball, right? All right, and you would think that would be in rigid body, right? You'd think you'd set that in there, right? No, you don't. Actually, it's in the collider itself. See, it says sphere collider, and what we're looking for is our physics material. All right, so it says material, and then it says physics. All right, physics material there. This is where you'll add in the settings that we want. Now, there are some preset ones that we can use, or we could create our own. For now, let's just use one of the preset ones. So what I'm going to do is go over here to this little circle with a dot in it. That's kind of the browse button. So I'm going to click on that. All right, and it's going to show us everything that's basically compatible with that area. So I'm going to choose rubber for now. All right. So we've got rubber in there. All right, so this physics material manages multiple things like friction and how bouncy stuff is. So we're going to do this. We're going to hit play on that. Dunk. That was kind of a sad basketball. It was like flat basketball, right? Yeah. So that's what that's for. This is more for tires instead of bouncy things. So what we want to do is I'm going to change this one from rubber, and we're going to choose bouncy. I do have to warn you, this is impossibly bouncy. And you'll see here in a little bit. So if we really wanted a basketball, we'd actually have to go in and create our own physics material. And you'll notice that, like I said, it is impossibly bouncy. It's actually gaining height. So, yeah. Oh, well, it also still continues to work. So if I get underneath this. Oops, there it goes. And it just went off the edge there. So let's give that a try, see if I can hit it from the right direction this time. There you go. Here it goes, it just bounced off the edge. Cool. So that's one of the functionalities of physics on there. All right. The next thing I want to show you will kind of help keep issues like that from happening. All right. So we've actually already been using this next thing, and that's colliders. All right. So I'm going to show you some things that we can do. All right. So you've seen this before. Some people find them annoying, but they can be useful. And what we're going to do is we're going to create some invisible walls. All right. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit create, and I'm going to do 3D object, and I'm going to do cube. So I'm going to do this with a cube first because it makes it a lot easier to handle and to visualize what we want. So I'm going to take this here. And I'm going to adjust it to make it into the wall that I want it to be. Now, I'm going to scale this up. All right, I'm going to make it taller as well. So there's one. There's one wall. All right, and I'm going to take this wall and I'm going to duplicate it. All right, so make sure it's selected. Duplicate it, Control D. I'm going to drag it out of the original. All right, so I have cube 1 and cube 2 there. Now I'm going to select both of them. All right, and I'm going to turn off the mesh renderer. So the mesh renderer is what actually draws the object. So I'm going to uncheck that from both of them. And now they are just the collider. So I'm going to hit play on that and show you. So it is an invisible surface. So if I run the ball into it, see? It also stops us. Cool. All right, now the other way of doing it, I'm going to show you here real quick. We're going to get the other corner here, or the other sets of walls here. So the other way we can do it is we can hit create, choose create empty, all right, and we can go from there. So an empty object is just that, it's empty. It has nothing in it. It has no shape, it has no size. It only has position. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to move this down to a useful place. All right, so that's about right there. Okay. So I'm looking at visually and looking at the numbers up here. So y is 2. So this grid is really 0, or kind of, or I'm sorry, it's really 1. So let's go ahead and place that here, and we're going to add a component to this. So right now it's just that. So I can hit add component, physics, and then I'm going to choose a box collider. All right, so you notice there's this green box around it. That is our physics, or that is our physics collider there. So we're going to edit our collider, and I hit the edit collider button. It gives me these dots on here and allows me to resize it. Now I could have scaled it if I wanted to. That is perfectly valid. But I wanted to show you this way. All right, so I've got that. I'm going to increase the height so it's less likely to bounce over, and drop the bottom down here. Cool. All right, now I can turn off the editor. All right, I'm going to move this just a little bit back here. Okay, so I've got that. I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate it and move one of them over here. There we go. Now we have 4 invisible walls made 2 different ways. There's an invisible wall over here. There's an invisible wall there, and so on. Cool. Now I'm going to rename these here real quick. Okay, so it is now surrounded there, and we can see each one of those when we select it. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and save this real quick. Okay, so we've got that. Now we're going to go into something a little bit more complicated, but it has some really cool functionality. So because of that, I am going to I'm going to go ahead and upload this here real quick. Let's see, name it Basic Physics. All right, I'm going to publish that. So while it's doing, we'll talk about our next thing. Okay, for this next part, we're going to I'm going to show you a different thing that physics can do. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some objects here. We're going to create a doorway. All right, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to create, well, actually, we're going to create one of those kind of flapping doors that you see in old-time saloons, just not as pretty. All right, so I'm going to create a cube here. All right, I'm going to take this and make it into kind of one of the walls there real quick. So I'm literally just going to take it up here, and I'm going to, create something to run into. All right, and we're going to add a component. We're going to do physics, and I'm going to add a rigid body to this. All right, so I've done that, and I'm going to change my drag to infinity. All right, because I don't want it to move. All right, I can do that again. All right, and infinity is again for angular drag, because I don't rotate at all. And infinity is something that that Unity understands, so you're not gonna move it anywhere. And of course, just for fun, I'm gonna set it to some ridiculously high mass. All right, so it's a very large and movable block. All right, so we've done that, and I'm gonna create a second object here. Create 3D object, cube. All right, and let me go ahead and move this into a usable area. All right, so I've got that, and I'm going to move it up. And let's go ahead and go to the side here and use that tool again. So I want it to be kind of a door. That should be good, right? That's not bad. So let's go ahead and move this. All right, and we're going to scale it a little bit more here. Okay, there we go. So I've got my object here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you another type of physics object that we have. So I'm going to hit Add Component, go to Physics, and this time we're going to choose a hinged joint. All right, so a hinged joint is a joint that allows you to kind of flap back and forth. And I'm going to click that, and it's going to add a rigid body for us. So now this has physics on it. And let's go ahead and take a look at what it's created for us. All right. So first thing I can tell you by looking at it, you see that arrow there. Oops. See that arrow right there? That means it's going to rotate along a bar that's going through that spot. All right, so let's give it a try. So I run into it. Blink. You got a doggy door, right? All right, so that's not what I want, though. What I want is it to rotate kind of along this axis right here. So right now it is rotating along the y-axis, or the x-axis. So that's x-axis is there. So I'm going to change this from 1 to 0 there, and I'm going to make this the y-axis, the axis that goes up and down, what it's going to rotate. And now it's actually going to rotate. If I leave it at these settings, it's going to rotate around this spot right here. Okay, so I don't want that, so I'm going to set my y to 0 because I want it to center, and I'm going to change my x to negative 0.55. Yeah, that's good right there. So it's going to rotate around a point that sits right there. All right, so let's give that a try. Boink. Pretty cool, huh? So I forced it in there. All right, so I'm going to go back here real quick, and we're going to try something here real quick. So yeah, we can't really push it any further. Now, if this block wasn't here, if that block was not there, it would continue to spin. Right? In fact, if I go here to the scene, I should be able to actually move this. Cube 1. Go to the move tool. And then go back to the game view. You notice it spins on that, right? What if I wanted to create a limit? All right, so I can do that. So I'm going to reset this here real quick. And I'm going to go back, and I'm going to select that cube here. And let's say I want to do a limit. I'm going to check the Use Limits checkbox here. And I have a limits section here, so I can actually go in and make changes. I'm going to hit edit joints here, or edit joint angular limits. All right, so that's going to show me what limits I have. And right now, they're really bad. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to modify that. So I'm going to say I want to only rotate that much there, and maybe that much over here. So I can set those how I want. You could also make it only go like one way. So only flap on the outside, you know, whatever you want. All right, so I've got my limits there. So I'm going to hit play on this, and we'll take a look at what it does. All right, doink. So it allows us with that. And of course, if I move this object again, and try it here. Game. See, you'll notice that it's stuck right there. It won't go any further because that's a limit. See? Now, wouldn't it be nice if we could have it flap back and forth? Right? So where it goes, it swings back and forth. That would be using a spring. So I'm going to check the spring box here. And I'm going to up my spring value a little bit. Let's say about that. Okay, so I'm going to hit play on this, and we're going to give it a try. I'm going to run into it, and boy, springs back, doesn't it? It's a pretty good job at that. But you'll notice it's going to sit there and flap a lot. Until eventually it slows down and stops. But what if I wanted to slow down faster? Well, what I can do is I can go here and add damper to it and have it slow down a little bit faster. There you go. Now I got that good flap feel to it, right? So that's pretty cool. All right, so we have other things that we could set on this. A motor basically makes just something spin with, at a velocity and adds things like that. We can also set it to free spin. So that's pretty cool. So if you want to do those things, brake force is actually something fairly interesting here. In fact, I'm going to set this here real quick. I'm going to set this to, I want to say 100. Oops. What did I do? Ah, yes. So it's already broken because I didn't let it sit long enough. Here, let's try that again. All right, so I'm going to set this to 100, and the brake torque to 100 as well. All right, so we'll give that a try. All right, so I'm going to play on here, and so nothing yet until I hit it really hard. So it breaks off. Now, if I did this fairly slowly, see if I remember the numbers right. So I should be able to walk into it kind of slowly here and have it still work. See, it still works. And we can adjust these values to make it break off when we want to. So I could adjust it up where it breaks for not me, but if let's see, let's add a whole bunch of that. What's that? That's actually 233 or something like that. All right, let's give that a try. Should be able to run into that with no problem. See, yeah. All right, but if something bigger hit it, it would then break off like a car. You know, pretty cool, right? Now there are other types of physics available to Unity. I'm not gonna go into those. They are pretty cool. So if we can do things like we can handle things like regular joints, we can do cloth if we want. We have characters, we can set limit joints on those. There's all kinds of stuff. We have spring joints and terrain colliders and wheel collider. So wheel collider basically allows us to create vehicles, wheeled vehicles, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's the physics portion of this. So if you want to learn to do more, look it up. It's pretty cool. All right. See you in our next video.